good evening. Thanks for joining us here on this weekend edition of the Urban Debate. I am Afrida Rahman Ali. Well, the big focus at this hour is on the COP26 summit that is slated to begin on the 1st of November in Glasgow in Scotland. PM Modi will attend the World Leaders Summit on the 1st and the 2nd of November in Glasgow, and Mirnaus Danish is there to get us all the updates. But what we want to tell our viewers here is that India is expected to make a rather strong pitch for climate justice and also showcase the steps that it has taken so far to do its bit for keeping the global temperature rise in check. So on agenda are several contentious issues. Carbon emission, of course, being primary of them. Global warming, financing the fight against climate change, fixing responsibility. These are issues that India will be highlighting and will be engaging with the other global leaders. Now, let us first also take a look at these disasters that have happened this year. The reason why we are playing out these disasters for you viewers is to get the context of it all. It has been a year of big disasters, 3 big ones on your screens right now. The floods in China, heaviest rainfall in 1,000 years, 13 million people affected. 9,000 homes were damaged. In Germany, nearly 200 people killed after heavy floods, major economic loss that is expected to run into billions. And not to forget the heat wave in US and Canada, intense heat wave that hit both these countries in June, July. The temperatures soared to 50 degrees Celsius, quite unimaginable for countries like Canada. And of course, the wildfires as well. Over 13,000 square miles of wildlands burnt and ravaged towns. Cyclones in India, of course, was another major climatic event that, of course, disrupted normalcy and normal lives in the states that suffered these cyclones. The floods have ravaged over half a dozen states, including Maharashtra, Odisha, West Bengal. Over 200 have died in landslides, floods and cloudbursts in Jammu and Kashmir and in Ladakh. So these events, actually make us understand how critical it is for the global leaders to converge. And we are exactly at that juncture now where world leaders are meeting in Glasgow, in Scotland, in what is called the COP26, the Conference of Parties. The 26th meeting will start from tomorrow. It's the short form, like I said, for the 26th meeting of the Conference of Parties to begin shortly to discuss climate emergency. This Conference of Parties is a group of 197 member nations of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and India will be in attendance. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has chosen to attend this meeting, even though there are countries like China and Brazil that have not been represented by their top leaders. India's commitment, therefore, is evident in this. India, however, noted that the current status of emissions places the planet on a trajectory of clocking a temperature rise of about 2.7 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. That is one of the primary issues that global leaders will be engaging with, and what can be done to prevent this kind of global warming. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, said global carbon dioxide emissions would need to reach net zero around 2050. This is a term we will discuss with our experts during the show. India has made certain contentions with regards to net zero. Who has to bear the responsibility? How should the responsibility be distributed among the member countries? The developed countries on one side, the developing ones on the other. The concerns are very different. Let me introduce the experts that we have on the show here today. Joining us today is Samrat Sen-Gupta, Program Director, Climate Change and Energy of CSE. Also, Dr. Abhilash, Director of Advanced Center for Atmospheric Radar Research, also with us. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here on this weekend edition of Urban Debate. Before I go across to the gentlemen, let's in fact listen in to important input that we have coming from Gayatri Isar Kumar, High Commissioner of India to UK, who outlines for us how India is pitching itself in the COP26 conference. Let's listen in.
At this point, the priority for all nations across the world is to focus on economic revival and how to do this in a sustainable way For that, climate action is very, very relevant. Our Honorable Prime Minister will be here and will be sharing with the world India's commitments and launching two very, very important initiatives under the CDRI initiative, that is a Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, and the ISA, that's the International Solar Alliance. These make the presence of a very high-level delegation from India, led by our Honorable Prime Minister, very, very important.
So we heard the focus that India is moving with in this conference. Samrat Sen Gupta, my first question to you on the point of net zero, and for the sake of our viewers, I just want to point out that this is a term that is being used to talk about the target, the sort of a the collective target of the countries when it comes to emissions. But Mr. Sen Gupta, can you explain to us that difference of opinion that is currently emerging on this issue? Because what we do understand is that Environment Secretary R.P. Gupta, just the days before the Glasgow conference, had said that net zero was not the solution to climate crisis that it is made out to be. And New Delhi sees the net zero call an attempt by the developed countries in some ways to shift the goalpost on the climate crisis. So my question to you first, explain to us why this is so important, and is there a divergence of opinion, a difference of opinion in this regard between the developed countries and the developing ones?
Sure. Hope I am audible well.
Yes, you are, sir. Go ahead.
Net zero term has been first coined by IPCC. It is a scientific term to limit the world's temperature rise due to human-induced global warming within 1.5 degrees centigrade. The world as a whole to attain the net zero means overall human-induced emission as well as its sinks, means the absorption of emission or carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases from the atmosphere due to various nature-based solutions, need to be equate to zero. Whatever we emit, we should absorb that much. Now, when it has been discoursed among the countries as to set their target, it is really a bone of contention. This net zero has been used by the historical polluters of greenhouse gases really to defer their action to 2050. And when the huge countries who have done the earlier pollutions like US, European Union, these people, they are talking about their country commitment to meet net zero by 2050. What is the space for the developing world? Like India, India's total emission footprint or global emission footprint is below 3%. But it constitutes a substantial portion of the global population, which is below a certain standard of living. They don't have proper access to clean and commercial energy. Our per capita energy consumption is almost 1/3 of the global average and far below the China or US standard. So on the equity perspective, we need a space to give our huge population for their betterment of life, some minimum standard of living, which requires a lot of development to be happening. So if the equity terms, which actually was bypassed during the Paris Agreement, which was ideally the base of UNFCCC formation, the common but differentiated responsibility, has not been in the discourse while discussing this net zero, the target between various countries. Now China is putting 2060 as their net zero target, but how much it is getting into the same pathway as the science is asking for.
Okay,
The
Mr. Sengupta, I have in fact grasped two very important points from what you just said. First, the way you explain net zero, and let me again spell it out for our viewers. What it means is that a country only produces that much carbon dioxide that it can suck out of the atmosphere by planting more trees or say deploying technologies, whatever way they choose. As that is to sequester their emissions. So that is the primary idea. Now, what Mr. Sengupta is saying is that you cannot have the same target equitably across developing and developed nations, since the compulsions are different. In India, for instance, like Mr. Sengupta said, the population is huge. To sustain this kind of population, the footprint that India is registering at the moment is only 3%. So it is only fair that the other developed nations, the rich nations, pitch in more. Dr. Abhilash, do you also concur with this view that India is more than willing to do its bit, but we are sustaining a very large, substantial population, and we are a developing nation? We can do this much, but then others need to pitch in.
Yeah, the saddest part is that the main discussion is revolving around the net zero emission. So as Sengupta has rightly pointed out, they are silent about what had been emitted to the atmosphere till now by the G7 countries. That is the main part. Not only India, all other G20 nations, which is part of like Brazil, China, Russia. You see this Glasgow conference, they are not attending at all. So that is what their resistance to this commonly but differentiated targets. But that is not happened even in Paris Agreement also. We have seen that the Paris Agreement didn't happen because we have put an ambitious limit of 2-degree warming by this end of this century. Then it is revised to 1.5 in the special report. But nothing had happened. That is the faith, because this net zero emission is a fancy term to continue the business as usual approach, but without any proper commitment to whatever already had been emitted to the atmosphere. If you look at the disasters, the climate-related disasters, the sufferers are very poor and purest countries like Asian countries, Africa, most of the island nations of the Pacific. They are the main sufferers, but they have nothing to do with this global emissions or global warming. If you put it together, though we have been telling that 3% is our current contribution. Our per capita emission is very, very less compared to other nations. So that is not at all bringing to the table by the leaders. So that is what I am really. I don't hear any surprise in this Glasgow conference.
Is it true, sir, that the developed countries have faltered in more ways than one because emissions have increased between 1990 and 2020? Also, regrettably, like you also mentioned, they've fallen short of the Paris Agreement commitments. So they are rather on loose grounds, especially those, the rich nations, the developed world, are, at the moment, it would be duplicitous on their part to advise others when they have fallen short. In fact, I was just reading that the commitment that was made to make available $100 million annually by way of climate finance to aid developing countries, has that fund come through, Mr. Sengupta?
This is 100 billion.
100 billion, I beg your pardon. 100 billion US dollars, yes.
In the climate debate, what people has already, everybody around the world has pushed for is for transparency.
Yes.
And when it comes to the real money on the table, led by developed country, the Annex 1 countries, here the data is most opaque. There is no transparency at all.
Okay.
Where the OECD's data showing they have achieved around 70 or 80% of this commitment. But the Oxfam report, on the other hand, saying they have only done 20% around of their commitment. So you can understand the so-called the opaqueness of the data available in the public domain to really scrutinize what the developed countries saying that 100 billion will be on the table, how far they have attended. They haven't attended. And if you see the normal development support in other form of money coming to various countries in the developing world, they have now been labeled under climate change to show that they are doing some bit of it. So it's actually technology transfer and money. I don't think the world has achieved any step forward. And that's last 30 years in this climate discourse, it is all about language and dialogue. Nothing has happened on the ground. But this year, I think there will be a slight move towards real action because the climate impact has now started impacting to the backyard of the developed countries. They have ultimately, due to COVID, they have understood the definition of vulnerability has changed. It is always understood that the people who don't have money and the developing world or the least developed countries which is the most vulnerable. But COVID has shown that the vulnerability definition has changed. So there is a little bit shift of their hardline stance on not doing anything rather than putting English in their document. There may be a slight movement towards real action. We cannot say we will achieve 2 degrees centigrade with the present NDC commitment. Various countries has, we are far short of it.
Yes.
We are at, with the NDC commitment, the figure will be, the emission by 2030 will be around 34 gigaton, which need to be actually 18 gigaton to achieve that 1.5 degrees centigrade.
Okay, so you're saying that some amount of intent is being shown here. These gatherings in the past have not yielded actual action, but Mr. Sengupta is saying that yes, going forward we can be positive, because I found it very interesting the way you put it. The definition of vulnerability has changed. We are all together in this. There is no doubt about it. Each and every country is a stakeholder now, and the recent events have very well shown that the way the developed countries have also suffered and been brought down to their knees by some of the climatic events. Dr. Abhilash, I just about have about 3 to 4 minutes to wind up the conversation. One issue that we have not addressed so far, which came up in the G20 summit, is to restrict the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees industrial emission, if I understood this correctly. What does this mean? And the fact that this commitment is being made, how feasible is it in realistic terms? Can this be done? It's one thing for the leaders to converge and say, yes, we commit to this, but can this happen?
This is not going to happen, because if you look at the present carbon budget, we are only left with around 300 to 350 gigaton carbon dioxide to be emitted to the atmosphere. So if you look at the current rate of emission, the global rate of emission, it is around 40 gigaton carbon dioxide. If you consider that, you will breach this 1.5 degree warming maybe in this decade or the early next decade. So that is the limit. So we are anyway not ambitious about reaching that limit, because it is going to breach out. Then if you look at the 2 degrees Celsius, IPCC has rightly pointed out, if you take a middle of the path scenario like SSP to 4.5 degree warming scenario, even if we take a middle of the path scenario by achieving net zero emission by 2050, even that case also it is going to breach 2.5 degree Celsius warming by 2100. That is the way we are warming. So this is what we are going to. But the one thing is that now all over the world, irrespective of developing, developed or third world countries, all are feeling the heat from this climate crisis. So something has to emerge rightly, because another promising thing is that US is back to action, like they re-entered to Paris Agreement. That is another promising action. Everything is now looking upon the Biden's action, how they are going for the negotiation to happen in terms of bigger cuts. Anyway, this 1.5 is a ambitious limit. We are going to breach out that.
Okay.
And 2, even 2 also. Yeah.
Yes, it's an
Yeah,
ambitious target, but yes, we'll have to leave it at that. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening and sharing your views, your informed opinions on this subject. But as I conclude, I want to just read from the very important UN climate change report. That is the last significant document that we have to suggest that this is code red for humanity now, viewers. There cannot be any further delay in taking note of the way the climate change issues are upon us, and the global leaders will have to now walk the talk. There cannot be any further dithering on it. Look at the issues that have been flagged off already. We hardly ever talk about these issues, but here they are. Earth warming faster than earlier predictions. World to cross 1.5 degree Paris threshold by 2030s. Once in 50 years, heat waves now occurring once in a decade. And we have witnessed that in our lifetime as well a couple of times. Storms, tropical cyclones to get worse and more frequent. Multiple climate disasters likely to occur simultaneously. And warming due to release of heat-trapping gases. Sea levels to rise by mid-century. And catastrophic ice sheet collapses and slowdown of ocean currents also will be less likely. These are the patterns emerging, which is why this particular conference of parties, the COP26 summit, which is going to happen in Glasgow, will have to deal with each of these issues and save humanity. This is code red for humanity, like I said, flagged off by the UN Climate Change Report. We leave it at that. Thanks for joining us here on this weekend edition of Urban Debate.